In recent rankings, 4 of the top 50 high schools in America were from Montgomery County. This is Jonathan Yates with the Culture of Sports. We're here with Montgomery County Executive Ike Legget today to talk about the academic and athletic supremacy that has resulted from his leadership. Mr. Legget, thank you for taking the time to be with us
Thank
today.
you. I'm delighted to be with you.
Were you surprised at how well the public high schools did in the recent rankings?
No, not really, because we've had a very strong public school system for a number of years. We invest a great deal in public schools in Montgomery County. About 57% of our entire budget, which is $5.6 billion, goes into the educational system. And we are very proud of the ranking. But if you even take that number and you go back to the top 100, you see quite a few in that list as well.
Oh, really?
Yes. In addition to the public schools, we have a large number of private schools in Montgomery County that are highly rated as well. So we are very proud of our public schools, but it did not surprise me that 4 of them are in the top 50.
Now, as active as you are with the public schools, do you deal with the private schools that much? As you said, Landon, Bullis, Georgetown Prep, Stone Ridge, Holton Arms, they're some of the best in the world. How much do you interact with them?
Quite a bit, because we have an ongoing relationship. For example, Georgetown Prep is right down the road. They're integrated with a lot of the athletic facilities around their campus. They provide a tennis camp there, and there are a number of activities that go on in their camp. And they've been very, very good at opening their facilities up to the general public, and so we deal with them quite a bit.
So I know how hands-on and proactive you are as a county executive, and the whole premise of this show is that Maryland has the best high school sports in the country. Now, you were born in Texas, grew up playing football in Louisiana, so what do you think when you go watch these Montgomery County games?
Well, in Louisiana, throughout the South, football is king. And you would see small towns with the entire community coming out, participated in Friday Night Football. You look at the movie Friday Night Football, you'll see large numbers of communities in small towns coming out as well. I had gone to high school football games, 10, 15,000 people average at many of the games. It is because it's a community activity. And so here it's much more diverse, but in the South, especially in Louisiana, it's football, baseball, and probably track. Basketball would be farther down the list for them.
Yeah, so what did you think when you came to Maryland and saw your first lacrosse game?
Well, it wasn't a lacrosse game that sort of stunned me. It was cricket
that would stun me too. Now, I'm from Anne Arundel County, where I'm used to us having the best lacrosse, but I think Montgomery County's challenging us. How did you pull that about under your leadership?
Well, it's because of the diversity of the community we have in Montgomery County. Keep in mind that 40% of our residents are foreign-born. And as a result of that, they are bringing with them a culture of sports that really expands what we have in Montgomery County. And so when you have a community of 1.1 million residents, 40% are foreign-born, then you're going to get a diversity of sports that is probably going to be unlike many other places around the country. And so it is because of that great diversity that we have that we're introduced to all of these sports in almost record numbers throughout Montgomery County.
Does the rich diversity of Montgomery County, does that amaze you sometimes, looking at where you grew up?
It certainly does, because when I grew up, it was basically black and white in Louisiana, and so having the opportunity early in my life, though, to be a part of the military, you get a much more diverse setting of people. And so when I was part of the military, coming out of college, the ROTC program, an opportunity to be a part of the military exposes you to levels of diversity that I did not have initially in Louisiana. And coming to Montgomery County was a continuation of that, but it was diversity at a broader level and much broader than I had even in the military.
Now, when anyone looks at your background, they see one leadership position after another. ROTC, class president in college, officer in the Army, number 1 year class at Howard Law School. How did sports contribute to that?
I think it was probably one of the pillars for me. I grew up, as indicated, in Louisiana, and right across the street in a very poor community was an open field. And this field was a field whereby most people who played basketball or football would congregate at some point during the day or during the week. And so I was exposed by my older brothers and people within the community to participate in sports.
It's nothing like older brothers to improve you in sports, that's for sure.
That's right. You always have that competitive challenge that you have.
Well, you learn to play dirty, that's for sure.
Yes, survive out there, really.
That's a better word for that.
Yeah.
And so how do you use those lessons now that you're county executive and one of the top politicians in the state of Maryland?
Well, in high school I played football, and I was a football quarterback. And in those days, quarterback did not have the system that we have today where all the players are audibleized and sent in to you by recordings or what have you. You basically called your own plays. But I was so good at it that not only would I be able to call my own plays continually, but I developed the plays initially. I was in high school at the 10th grade, almost like an offensive coordinator, 10th grade in high school, and playing quarterback. And I just loved it. I loved playing football, and I loved playing quarterback. And the skills from that, the involvement, working with the coaches, working with teammates, really was a lesson in leadership that I'll never forget.
Now, last week for my show, I interviewed a congressman from Texas, and he said his favorite football player growing up was Johnny Unitas.
Yeah.
Who was your favorite football player growing up?
I would think that my favorite one would probably be Bob Hayes, coming out of Florida A&M in the South. Very fast.
Yes.
He was offensive end, played for Dallas Cowboys, but he was one of the first professional football players that I saw through the ranks from college right on in through professional football, and therefore I had a focus on him, unlike some of the other players, because he was a person I saw in college, had a chance to observe play in college, and then followed his record right on into the professional ranks.
With an Olympic gold medal.
That's right.
To boot.
Good point. Right.
Hey, you had one of the top Olympic gold medalists down at Stone Ridge not that long ago, Katie Ledecky. What was it like having such a star athlete come out?
Oh, it's wonderful. In fact, we had a big ceremony for our Olympic athletes some time ago. In fact, we had 4 of them that came out of the Olympics with Katie. And it was a love fest. We had a huge hall in Silver Spring, a very cold night, but the people turned out in record numbers, packed the place, and all of them were from Montgomery County. But to see the young people, and what I asked the athletes at the end of that, would they stay around in order to sign autographs for the young people? And you can imagine 600 or 700 people.
Sure.
All 4 of the athletes stood at the end of the stage for at least another hour and an hour and a half, signing autographs and taking photographs with the young people of Montgomery County. That was such an eye-opener for me because it said a great deal how the young people admired the athletes and the dedication and commitment that they had to the community. And they were willing to stay for that length of time just signing autographs and taking photographs.
Now, speaking of Katie Ledecky, what do you think the impact of Title IX has been on sports in America?
Immense, because it has opened up sports for a large number of young women who otherwise would not have had the opportunity. We had some controversy about it early on because people thought it would dilute from the other sports and so forth. I think it has enhanced it because not only have you got women involved as active participants, but they're also spectators. And so moms now and young ladies who enjoy sports, they go out to watch men as well. And as a result of that, it expands the base for sports all over. But it provides a level of involvement, leadership. It provides them with the opportunity that far too often they did not have. And I am delighted to see the progress that we've made.
Now, a study by Ernst & Young found out that over 80% of females in C-level offices played sports in high school and college. Does that surprise you at all?
No, it does not, because I think it parallels with what I've had in my own experience and what you find with many men who are in corporate positions and politics and governance around the country, that they had some level of activity in sports. And I think that translates just as well for females.
Now, was it easy to do the transition from teaching at law school to politics?
It was a little bit challenging because I always thought of myself politically as the person not to be engaged out front. I was somewhat reluctant to actually run the first time for public office. When I ran for office in Montgomery County the first time in 1985, we had never elected a person of color to any political position in Montgomery County. And the story goes, and the true story, for the first 6 months running for county council at large in Montgomery County, there was not a photograph of Ike Legget on the brochure. No, we didn't even put a photograph on. It wasn't until 6 months into the campaign that some people realized that I was an African American. Now, I did that, and we were probably a little bit overly cautious, but we went on to win the race and won it overwhelmingly, and we had 4 races as county council at large, 3 times as county executive, with an African-American population base at the original start about 6%, and now it's still no more than about 16%. We've had 7 countywide races, and we've won them all without a close race whatsoever. And I think part of that comes as a result of the leadership training in sports. Part of it comes as a result of the training that I had growing up in the South of working with people in a way that made it, somewhat challenging for me to work. Part of it comes as a result of the great people in Montgomery County. And so I reflect that in many things that I do today, to get people involved, to build coalitions. And the best way you can do so, in my opinion, bring young people up, have them engaged in sports, those kinds of activities, and it will translate into meaningful, productive relationships much later on.
So what are some of your accomplishments that you're most proud of in Montgomery County regarding sports?
Well, the best accomplishment, I think, is building facilities and to make certain that we are as diverse in the kinds of offerings that we have. We have 34 recreational centers in Montgomery County. We have over 400 parks in Montgomery County. We have miles and miles of trails and access to hiker biker outlets. We have all kinds of recreational facilities that I think are some of the best, and we built those. We've built, I think, 7 recreational centers in my time as county executive. We've built a number of facilities that enhance sports in our parks and so forth. So by providing those facilities, and those facilities are first rate, it's going to encourage people to come out and participate and be a part of that. And so I'm very proud of providing the facilities, the programs that people like and enjoy, and the rest will simply follow, because when you have that level of involvement, the facilities, great programs, they're nice programs across the board, and you make it as diverse and as clear as possible for everyone to participate, you're going to get good results.
Now, when people come to visit Montgomery County, are they shocked at all the natural outdoor activities you have, such as the Potomac River, Rock Creek Park?
Well, they are, because we're not far from the nation capital.
No.
We are a community of 1.1 million residents. It covers 500 square miles.
And they all seem to be on the Beltway at rush hour at any one time.
That's true. But most of that development is right along the red line. But if you go beyond that, you'll find that we are both urban, we're suburban, and we're quite rural. 1/4 of the entire 500 plus square miles of Montgomery County are devoted to farm and rural acreage. And we started that, and we pioneered that many years ago by something called transfer development rights, whereby you're allowed to develop probably a greater density in certain areas in order to offset less development in other areas and keep farmland and open space available. So as a result of that, we have a great deal of farmland, a great deal of recreational activities in the rural communities of Montgomery County, trails, the Potomac River nearby,
wineries,
you name it, it's all there. If you go out in our farms areas throughout Montgomery County, especially on the weekend, you'll see large numbers of people just simply biking and enjoying the outdoors.
Now, you have some excellent colleges and universities as neighbors, too. How much do you interact with them at the county level?
Well, we do. We participate a great deal at the University of Maryland at College Park, which is nearby. We at Hood College and also Montgomery College as well. But we've been able to develop sort of an ingrown level of volunteerism, high school and down, in public participation, because we do not have a major professional team. You know, we do not have the Baltimore Ravens, we do not have the Nats that are located in Montgomery County. But if you go to those facilities and you look at the number of people participating and coming out to watch the game, large numbers of them from Montgomery County. But we've been able to develop our sports basically at the high school level, basically with volunteers and people coming up through the ranks and making it through those professional teams. But unfortunately, we've not had one of the professional teams in Montgomery County. And this is normally what you would find in many other places. But that creates more spectators. What we create more so than anything else are people who actually participate in sports.
So when you go to the games, do they remind you of Friday night lights down in Louisiana and Texas?
This is a little bit more professional. You know, in Texas and Louisiana, you'll find people out much more casually. The entire family would be out, and it would be the entire community out Good Friday night, wholesome entertainment and enjoying sports at its best, I think. And Friday night football for me is one of the best indications of community spirit, sports, volunteerism, and a wholesome environment for young people.
And so what do you think it is about sports that engenders so much community spirit? When I taught at the University of Iowa last semester, I had a state senator on, and she said, we're getting a new stadium in my district, and I can't wait to go to Friday night games, and I don't even like football. So what do you think it is that just brings together the community in sports?
Well, a number of things. First of all, if you look at sports, it's competitive, and by nature, we are competitive. It is also community because it engages a wide array of people at all ages. We have young people engaged, from toddlers all the way up to some of our elderly residents who are playing dodgeball and pickleball and a number of other things in the community. And so it's community oriented, it brings people together, it involves people at a level that I think that is helpful. And it also has this camaraderie and competitiveness that we think about. You put all those things together in a wholesome environment, you're going to get active participation. What the government must do is to make sure that we have the facilities and provide the resources that are necessary to keep them open, keep them wholesome, and make certain that people have the opportunity to come out and enjoy them.
Now, it's interesting you mentioned camaraderie and competitiveness in
Yeah.
the same sentence when you're talking about community sports. How is the leader of Montgomery County, the governor, if you will, how do you walk that fine line when you've got a game between, say, BCC or Whitman or something like that, or St. Bees is playing Sacred Heart? How do you walk that line?
Whatever school that I'm in, whatever sport that I'm participating in, and whatever time I'm there, that's the best one. So I go to BCC, that's the best high school in Montgomery County. I go to the Masters at that point, that's the best high school in Montgomery County. So I love to go out and watch the games. I love to see kids participating. But the camaraderie and the competition goes to hand. For example, you can be competitive. I go out and I play tennis. I love playing tennis, and I play with my friends. And I would go out and I'm out on the field, out on the court to win. 5 minutes after the game, we're relaxed, joking. But when between those lines, I'm there to win, they're there to win, and you could have that competitiveness, and you could do it in a way that is wholesome, do it in a way that provides friendship, do it in a way that you have that camaraderie, that you come together, both on the field and off the field. And if you play within the rules, you're going to get that. But I play to win.
So let me ask you a question. So when you were at Howard Law School, which has an outstanding reputation, and now you're in Montgomery County, which also has an outstanding reputation for intellectual achievement, what's it like trying to be the leader and marshaling those resources to move forward for a human common goal?
Well, I have 4 degrees, BA, MA, JD, LLM. I've done very well academically.
Yes.
But people in Montgomery County are much smarter than Ike Legget. I mean, these are some of the smartest people you can ever find anywhere in the world.
I agree with the second one, not about the first part of that sentence.
So what I do is to recognize that in many ways, when I'm talking to an audience, there's someone out there in Montgomery County who knows far more about what I'm talking about than I do. And I respect that challenge. And if for some reason they ask me a question, I'm engaged in a discussion about something that I don't know, I would respectfully say, I really don't know the answer to that. I'll get back to you. That is the kind of respect you provide for the residents and people who you're engaged with. Recognizing that there's a great deal of talent that's out there. Recognizing that they're smart and you're going to respect them. And so I constantly have that in mind. I learn every day from some of the most educated people that are in our county and some who are not as formally well educated. But you respect the knowledge, you respect the differences, and if you do that, it's going to make you a better leader.
Now, in terms of well-educated people, you are a White House Fellow. Few people even know what that is. There are Rhodes Scholars who apply to be White House Fellows.
Right.
How did you get into that? I mean, that wasn't that far after, growing up from, in the South.
First of all, I have to distinguish between a White House Fellow and a White House intern. Sometimes people get confused. Let me explain it this way. Monica Lewinsky was a White House intern.
I would never accuse you of being an intern, sir.
Right,
Okay.
right.
If you'd gone to medical school, yes, but no.
And that is selected politically.
Yes.
Colin Powell was a White House Fellow.
Yes.
And that is selected on merit. It's a very difficult competition.
Without
It's one of the
question.
most competitive you can ever see.
And so how did you find out about that?
Well, I found out about it when I was at university, and they had a number of opportunities for people to apply for either additional training, for fellowship programs, and I noted the White House Fellows, and I looked at some of the people who have been engaged in the program, such as Colin Powell and many others. I said, this is something that I would really like to apply for, and when I got the application, I looked at the application, I said, well, I'm not sure. This is the longest application I've ever seen in my life. But I finally got through it and submitted it, and you go through series of challenges, regional, national, and ultimately get down to the final 30, and normally they select anywhere from 12 to 15. And I was fortunate to be selected.
And what agency were you with?
I was assigned, what they do is assign you to the president, the vice president, or one of the cabinet members. And so there's 2 parts of the program. One part of it is part of a work relationship where you're working with the cabinet member, the president, or the vice president. The other part of it is sort of an educational component where you come together, meeting with various officials of government, traveling literally around the world to engage in activities at a first-hand basis. So you get an opportunity to work, but you also get an opportunity to learn by the engagement of the scholarly kinds of activities that you're engaged in, plus the hands-on experiences that you would have working with cabinet members. So it's a wonderful program, probably in my opinion one of the top fellowship programs in the entire nation.
So 2 questions about that. Number 1, what lessons from sports were you able to take with you in terms of being a successful White House fellow? And number 2, what lessons in politics did you learn from being a White House fellow that have led to pretty much an unblemished career as an elected official in a very, very competitive area?
Well, it goes back to sports in terms of leadership. For example, you're working for a cabinet member. You recognize that person has a certain portfolio, but he or she must work with all of the people within a particular agency, and therefore you need a support base and you need the help and support around you. Athletics, the same way. You can be a quarterback, but if you don't have somebody in front of you blocking for you, you don't have a good running back or someone who you catch the pass as you throw it, you're not going to be very successful. And so you need that team level of cooperation in order to be successful in it. Politics the same way. Governance the same way. I have a huge cabinet here in Montgomery County of people that I rely upon, people who help me to get elected. It's not all about me. I could be the leader of the county, but I need the help and support of a large number of people to be successful. The same way you go through the process of running for office as well. So it's a correlation between the levels of cooperation and teamwork that you have that translates, I think, fairly well from politics to sports, right on into governance and leadership.
So let's finish it off with the last big question for you. Montgomery County is one of the finalists for Amazon's second headquarters. They're looking at that. Maryland General Assembly just passed a sweet and sentence package. If I'm Jeff Bezos and I come here and I say, I'm from the Pacific Northwest, we're big on outdoor sports, what would you tell him to sell him about Montgomery County and its culture of sports and the outdoors that would make him decide this is where I want Amazon's second headquarters, even despite the traffic?
We have the entire package. We're urban, we're rural, we are suburban. And athletics, sports, and all the kinds of activities that you would want for a healthy workforce. Maryland, Montgomery County is one of the healthiest communities in all of the world. And if you're concerned about your workforce, we can educate them in a very well-found way. But if you're also concerned about their physical health and their ability to be better leaders and be much more productive, a location in a community such as Montgomery County where we have the athletics facilities, we have people who are engaged, people who are willing to work with you, participate with you, you're going to get more productive workers because you're in Montgomery County.
With you as a leader, you'd be a fool not to take that, Mr. County Executive. Thank you very much. This is Jonathan Yates with the Culture of Sports. Thank you for joining us.